Welcome to the Telabs Optical LAN video series, How to Sell Telabs Optical LAN. This is the sixth in a 6-video series titled Example Customer Optical LAN Presentation. The purpose of this video is to provide an illustration of how the Telabs Optical LAN system can be staged in a sales presentation. The objectives of this video are a review of the challenge sales model and an example of the use of this method in the Telabs Optical LAN sales presentation. In the previous video, we introduced the Challenger sales method. It starts with the warmer, where you introduce yourself. You express why you're an authority on this topic. Next is the reframe. You tell them something that they don't already know. You give them a unique perspective, and then you give them the negative. Tell them the ramifications of staying with the status quo, the issues of choosing a different technology, or going with a different vendor. Then you make it personal. Give them an example that is relevant to them and their industry. After you have them at this point, you can then present them with a new way, passive optical LAN, and how it will help them. And after that, you move to your company and your products. So only then do you begin talking about Telabs Optical LAN. The following is an example of a Telabs Optical LAN sales presentation to a hotelier in the downtown Metro Denver area.
Hi, my name is John Hoover. I'm a senior product manager with Telabs, and I've been very active in passive optical networking since 2003, when I was part of a team that helped launch Verizon Fios Fiber to the Home project, which now serves over 1 million homes. In about 2008, I started helping out the verticals, specifically hoteliers like you, figure out how to build and operate passive optical LANs at hotels and resorts. What we found was over the decade, networks have been changing. You know, in the past, these hoteliers' networks were best effort. There were no real-time applications running on them. There was just computer connectivity, and security was not a concern. But now we see that there's this need for always-on connectivity. There is absolutely real-time data running across these networks, voice and video, and they connect all sorts of different IoT devices, smart building endpoints. And security can be a threat not only from the outside, but also from the inside. But we still see people building these networks the same way. They use a decentralized architecture. It's very hardware-centric. It's very copper cabling centric, and it seems like wireless is an afterthought. So what we have is that old 20th century network trying to handle 21st century technology. And it's a struggle because, you know, these networks are fixed bandwidth. They don't grow relative to high density endpoints or new bandwidth needs that easily. Their high touch actually leads to high human error. They consume a lot of energy and they emit a lot of heat, and that has a rippling effect, and they also take up a lot of space. They're vulnerable to downtime, network outages, because of their decentralized architecture and because they have all these full functioning switches and ports spread across a hotel or resort. They're a nightmare to troubleshoot. And because of that decentral architecture also, they present many points of vulnerability, and therefore they're a high security risk. So the business impact is even worse than you think. Gartner has done some studies, and they're saying that your IT budget is staying the same, but we know that the complexity of your network and the services that you're providing is increasing, and that's really stressing your staff. We also know that businesses like you lose about 3 to 6% annual revenue due to network downtime. And if you dig into that even deeper, you'll see that 50 to 80% of the network outages are actually caused by human error. So, you know, this reflects poorly on the chosen IT architecture. And I'm sorry to say it reflects poorly on the IT staff, but it also reflects poorly on the business. Now, if we look at the architecture and technical aspects, and there's even some more challenging things. We've seen these major outages, and the root cause has been that these networks are so complex, they're barely manageable by humans. And the cost of improving these networks, building highly meshed, highly redundant networks is very high. But the fact is, downtime is not acceptable anymore. So what do? Do we rip and replace constantly? Another refresh, another cabling and electronics replacement? It seems like we've done this already a couple times over the past decade. There's some even worse news. I mean, we looked at this study and we found hoteliers like yourself that were struggling with the fact that today's business travelers rate connectivity even greater than a clean room and a great restaurant. And in fact, 2/3, 67% of the business travelers today will not return to your hotel if they cannot get adequate connectivity. So this is not just an IT problem, it is a business problem. The good news is that we have passive optical LAN, and that's what we want to talk about today. And from a business standpoint, we can improve the reliability of your network, not only for the guest services, but for the back office. We did this for a Spring Hill Suites in Dayton, Ohio, and now they are ranking in a top 1% of all Spring Hill Suites by Marriott relative to their scores on high-speed internet connectivity and wireless connectivity. We installed a passive optical LAN at Sinclair Holding that had hundreds and thousands of IoT endpoints. By having this centralized architecture and centralized management, they only had to install one OLT in one data center, and it actually served 3 buildings, 3 downtown buildings in Fort Worth, Texas. That saved them great savings relative to OpEx. Also, there are technical reasons to choose passive optical LAN. It removes electronics in the aggregation, distribution, and access networks, and actually reduces cabling requirements. So there was an Atlanta Marriott Marquis project that we did where we reduced the coring on each floor needed to go through all the 55 stories. And that saved Marriott over $100,000 and certainly cut back on the guest disruption as well. And then from a scalability, this marries very well with wireless and also a graceful migration to 10 gig. By bundling optical LAN and Wi-Fi and DAS, Texas A&M Stadium was able to save 30 to 40% on their CapEx. And then we saw SK Groups save nearly $100,000 by converging wireless over their fiber-based passive optical LAN. So these are good examples of mixed-use public venue facilities using passive optical LAN. Now the Tellabs optical LAN solution, it's peerless. We're leading the industry. We have advanced security. Our ONTs store no information, no user or network information. We have the best-in-class NAC and 802.1x. We have leading PON protection, so we can achieve less than 30 seconds of downtime a year if that's how you want to design your network. And we have advanced operations for you through global profiles and one screen centralized managed where we can automate the connectivity of OLTs, ONTs, and all the subtenant devices. Our corporation is PON focused. We have that heritage, like I mentioned, with Verizon and Fios and fiber to the home. All of our R&D is right here in America, based in Dallas, and our whole executive team and sales and support is right here, is US based. So we can support you day one and day two in the best means possible. We are specialized, and we actually work with the best of breed partners for a tight ecosystem that will benefit you. And Tellabs has 60% of the total passive optical LAN deployments in North America. We work with all the top major international hotel brands, and we have great experience over a wide range of related verticals, not only hotels and resorts, but retail, casinos, stadiums, MDU, mixed use, public venue, etc.
That completes the sales presentation. As you can see, the presenter used all the elements of the Challenger sales model. This concludes this video. In it, we have discussed a review of the Challenger sales model and an example of the use of this method in the Teleb's Optical LAN sales presentation.